ended up going to college. If you saw my college boards, you'd cry. You'd absolutely cry. I think my mother did. She did a little research and said, these scores aren't that great, Jim. But I got in school in that September 1964. The Phillies were playing great baseball, and they're going for the championship. They're up 7 games. They're up 7 games. Now, they're up 2 or 3 games with 7 to play. So I cut a lot of my early classes. I was going to school in Philadelphia, commuting across the Delaware River, almost an hour each way. But my grades didn't come out so well that first semester. And all of a sudden, that next semester, I learned time management. I had 3 part-time jobs. I played on some public basketball teams, but I was busy. My mother never saw me, but I lived at home. I slept at home. And, I just learned, that's life. You go to work every day. So I get through at LaSalle. I go to, before graduation, I find out that I'm told to go to this honors convocation. And I said, why do I have to go to this? And the registrar's office said, you have to be there, Jim Corbett. I get the award for the American Marketing Association Student of the Year. This came totally out of the blue. Good things happen to me constantly, So I get through college, and Vietnam War's raging at that time, and there were opportunities for deferments if you got married, or if you taught grammar school or high school. Well, I didn't have either of those opportunities. Number one, I was scared of girls in those days, I'll tell you. And number two, I didn't think I could teach anybody anything. So I ended up applying for what was called a preceptorship with Hoffman LaRoche. Does anybody know who Hoffman LaRoche is? He was a maker of Librium and Valium, the 2 most prescribed tranquilizers in the world. And I ended up getting trained. There were 12 students in their junior year that became student sales reps. And I get a book of business to talk about Librium and Valium on the streets of Philadelphia to psychiatrists and psychoanalysts. I talked about the side effects and all this stuff. I was totally into negative selling, So I get through that, and they offered me a job for that summer. Well, I'm going in the Army. Everybody's going to the Army. You don't have the deferment. So I got a delayed entry. I get a job. I figured out how to work 4 days a week and spend 3 days on the Jersey Shore. That's when I started meeting girls. That was a good move on my part. The bottom line is, a lot of good things happened to me. I went to Vietnam. And before that, I went to basic training, and out of the blue, and I'm not anything special, I was trainee of the cycle and trainee leader of the cycle in basic training. When they announced that, I just about fell over. I said, who are they talking about? And somewhere along the line, I kept thinking, I was an altar boy all those years. I went to Mass every day with my mother during Lent. We'd walk 2 miles to the church. It was the end of winter, early spring. It was cold a lot. And one of the things I did to toughen my hands for the newspaper route is I didn't wear gloves. So the cold weather toughened my hands. I looked back on all these little things and I said, geez, where did I get this stuff? Well, I got through Vietnam. My job was to blow landing zones with demolition. I had a chainsaw team on one side and a demolition team on the other side of this ridge line in the mountains in Vietnam. A lot of times we were rappelling off a rope out of a helicopter. And we'd blow that landing zone and get out of there, and we'd go back to a fire base. And I spent 269 days doing that. And and I kept thinking, hey, I'm a college graduate. How about a job in the rear for Jim, And the colonel said to me one day, he says, you're too good at what you're doing, you're staying out. I said, thank you. His call sign was Ripsaw, and my call sign was Crisis 22 Charlie. I should have known there was something there, So anyway, I got through Vietnam. I went home for 45 hours. Went home for 45 hours and reported my first class at Indiana University. Because somewhere along the line, I got in my head that I wanted to get an MBA. I wanted to make myself different. I wanted to have a competitive advantage over anybody else I talked to. MBAs were still in the formative years then. IU turned out to be a phenomenal place for me. And I got accepted on probation. I wish I could have a copy of the application I sent to IU, because it was handwritten by flashlight under a poncho liner, and it was raining out. I was in the jungle writing that thing.
Wow.
And I got accepted, and I made up my mind, I'm gonna give it everything I have to get permanent status here. IU turned out to be a fabulous place. For those Californians that haven't spent any time in the Midwest, try to do that, even if it's a long vacation. There's two things that I know are irrefutable. Midwestern people, really pretty special. And Southern hospitality is really true. I'll tell you that right now. But enough sidebar. Christy, don't let me do that anymore.
I want to know how you met the love of your life, because behind every great man, we know there's a greater woman.
Yeah.
If I may say
That's
so.
true. That's true in our case.
Just because I've seen Jim and all his successes, but I've also seen the steadfast presence of Georgia throughout all these years.
Yeah. Well, Georgia was an inside job. My first job in Sacramento, which I got through a job I had at Indiana University, where I met Bill Haverly. I met this gentleman named Andy Estradas. He became my partner, and we had a financial planning business in Davis. Worked with about 200 families. We did a pretty comprehensive financial plan. I think you'd be proud of us. We took their checkbooks from them and prepared a budget. And we really did some stuff, I'll tell you. We wrote a book on financial planning and how things can come, because every action is an equal and opposite reaction. But we really work with the budget, trying to get him ahead, get our clients ahead. Work mostly with professionals, doctors, lawyers, accountants, tons of professors at UCD, authors, and we built a book of clients that was pretty extraordinary. And we got them investing in the UCRS system, dollar cost average in their selected group of funds. And, they got a regular paycheck, they put a regular amount in, and these people retired well, I assure you. Me and my partner got a small fee for doing the plan, but we learned with each family a new and different circumstance and situation. But we got enthralled with the real estate. But back to Georgia. My partner at the time, Andy, was a Greek guy from Marysville. And my wife and her family were part of this small Greek enclave in Marysville. Very close-knit group of families. I'm going to say there were 50, 60, 70 families. They had their own small church where the pastor would come from Sacramento, and small hall where they socialized and so on. And he tricked my wife, he tricked Georgia into meeting me. Georgia had one blind date and said, I'll never do that again. But he tricked her, and it was a little cold that first meeting. They were having a small gathering at their house for a luncheon on a Saturday. Georgia babysat their kids in the morning, and Andy got her to stay, and then I walked in, and the introduction took place. Well, Andy's wife, Leslie, needed something from the Lucky store off of Anderson Road, and she asked me if I would go get it. And I said, sure. And I said to Georgia, you want to walk with me over there? And she said, no. So 18 months later, we renewed our relationship. Anyway, that's the background. My wife is a superstar. Being an entrepreneur, you got to be all in. There's no halfway of being an entrepreneur. And sometimes you're not the best husband, sometimes you're not the best father. I wouldn't say I was the best, I wouldn't say I was the worst, but my wife carried the ball for me. And when I did a lot of night work, when you're raising money, you do whatever it takes. I worked 2 or 3 nights a week, visiting with investors and clients and so on and so forth. And my wife would always say, your father's got things to do. And when we did the 87 flips and the 08 to 12, she was instrumental in dealing with the subs, I'll tell you that. She handled the subs better than I did, that's for sure. So Georgia's special. She's a special education teacher. She worked with children with hearing issues, and it's meant a lot to our family, to say the least. And I'm very blessed to have 50 years with that woman. So, very blessed.
And it's interesting when you mentioned earlier that, as entrepreneurs, we decide our own schedule. If we want to take 3 weeks off to go to Greece, we could do that. Well, that's what Jim did recently.
Just got back. Just got back.
So it's really nice for you guys to be able to share like how you guys met. I remember this was back in the first class. You were in real estate, so a big real estate entrepreneur. Spectrum Capital?
Yeah.
Yes. Tell us a little bit more about
Spectrum Capital essentially was a corporate general partner for 75 limited partnerships, investing mostly in apartment buildings. And that's how we built a property management company whose name survives today in Sacramento. It's called the Tsunamii Company. Mostly residential real estate, and but we bought and sold a lot of apartment buildings. Marcus Millichap sold 25 of our buildings.
Yeah.
They're very happy with us. We knew Bill Millichap and George Marcus personally because we were good clients, But Spectrum was a corporate general partner for all those limited partnerships. Just one of many things I've done in real estate. I've alluded to the flips. I thought the flipping model would be fun, so I went to the steps of the courthouse and bought 87 homes. And it's not for the faint of heart, I spent most of the time walking with $500,000 in cashier's checks in my pocket and bid against 4 professional investors every day. And because I was the only one with his own money, I often won the bid because they were on an earphone away, in one case, with their principal on a yacht in Miami Harbor, and the communication wasn't quite as clear, and when that gavel came down, it was my property. So Georgia played an instrumental role with that, too. I mean, we did things a little differently, we put a little pizzazz in the color scheme, and it was neutral, but not totally neutral. We pruned trees that none of my competitors would prune trees, but I did it because I get more light in my backyard, or make the curb appeal look a little better. We had a cadre of mostly woodland type subcontractors, all licensed. It was all a fun model for those years. We made a ton of money, high risk, high reward. But you had to do your homework. I had relationships with Placer Title that helped me along the way. I had a brilliant agent working for me. I interviewed 10 agents. 9 of them told me exactly what I wanted to hear. And this one agent told it like it is. She ended up enlisting 40 homes for me in London, and she was extraordinary, a true professional. And I've had tremendous experiences in terms of professionals. I don't know if you want to switch gears and go to this other phase of the conversation, but if you...
Well, I wanted to also talk about some regrets, but I'll take your regrets.
No, I think I can address the regrets. That's how as proud as I was about the financial planning business, we got enamored with real estate and literally kind of left that in the dust. And I think that business would have survived beautifully. It was a forerunner of financial planning at that time. This was 1973 to about 83. I was the 7th CFP in the phone book. The only reason I got a master's in tax is because I could understand the issues, so I went to Golden Gate, got a master's in tax. And I loved helping people in that regard, but we started buying this model worked so well, buying these apartment buildings, that we kind of left that in the dust. The other thing is, another regret I have is I wish we kept 5 or 6 or even 10 of those apartment complexes. But we had a disparate group of limited partners, And when time came, they wanted to get out, so we let them out. We didn't. I've seen a lot of syndicators really come up with a pretty poor formula to get people out with significant discounts, and I didn't feel good about doing it that way. You know, there's a philosophy in investing about the sale of partial interest, which is well known as has deep discounts. I just didn't feel comfortable taking out people that meant so much to us at a discount that they didn't get a true rate of return. So we ended up selling all our apartment buildings. It would have been nice to keep 5, 10 of them. We had some really well-located buildings. So those are my 2 key regrets. You know, I'm sure I could dig up a few more. But you know what? You have that's part of life. I was reading something about Brian Tracy the other day. You know who Brian Tracy is?
Yes.
Brian Tracy is one of the early gurus of motivational speaking and what have you. And this clip came across. He said, if you get yourself in a room with no distractions for 30 minutes, you probably can come up with a solution to your problem inside of 30 minutes. You know, and I think about this a lot. The pandemic really hurt us in a lot of respects, because we lost that ability to mix with one another on a casual basis. I look back on my career, and I just love the collaboration with other people. You know, if I would prepare for a meeting, and I'd have a couple different ideas on what the outcome should be, but I go in a room with like-minded individuals who cared about what we were trying to do, who wanted to do it right, and I would listen to them, and I'd say, I never thought of it that way. That's a better way than my way. And we'd walk out of there as one. You know, I look back on some of the businesses we've helped build through the Bay Equity the SEA alums, and we just came up with better solutions all the time. And so I'd urge you in your own dealings, just take some time to pause. I learned that from a very dear friend in the last 10 years. Don't make a decision just to get it behind you. It's an important decision. The old phrase, sleep on it, is a really good thing. And frankly, if it's not a decision you have to make right away, put it in the background. Make some notes. Come back to it. And when you have to make that decision, you'll be better prepared. So, I mean, I'm on tangents again, so bear with me, folks.
Jim, do you want us to ask you some questions, or do you want us, I have a couple of things though.
I'm going to ask Chase to come up with one thought out of that list I gave you, Chase. Do you want to lead that off?
I'll start at the top of it.
Oh, okay.
Let's do it.
We put culture down.
Yeah.
So
That's an interesting one. Being old school, I'll never forget when I met with SAA alum 95 class, Brett McGovern, in his backyard in Novato, and he said, Jim, I want to start a mortgage bank. And we had this conversation, and it looks like we could raise $2 or $3 million. I said, that will be no trouble at all. I can do that. I can help do that. We can do it. We can bring in family and friends, and we can do that. And Brett starts talking about culture. And he has the Christmas party planned in his head already. And this knocked me off stride. I said, holy cow. You know, I got to be respectful. Brett and I just had a substantial conversation about starting a mortgage bank. And the next subject you bring up is culture. Well, by gosh, the thing that separated Bay Equity from all the rest was culture. Part of our founding group were the 3 McGovern brothers. And that theme came through every single day. And when we look back now, the letters and emails Brett gets, now that Bay Equity has been sold to Redfin, and now Redfin's been bought by Rocket, the letters are coming in from people who have been with us several years, and they praised the McGovern brothers for the culture they built that really wrapped around family. And it wasn't just a phrase. When we celebrated things, families were invited to picnics, parties, you name it. When we honored our loan officers, and we took phenomenal trips. Families were always invited. Expenses for a lot of the family members are paid. It was an extraordinary circumstance. And then along the way, we had a contract marketing guy come in after the third or fourth year. He happened to be a former news anchor out of Portland. I don't know if I ever said that to you, Gary. His name was John Marler, Marley, Ler. And John took this concept of family, and he handled all communications inside and outside the company. And that theme was constant. And we built all kinds of activities around the family, and it worked beautifully. Our turnover rate was low. People stayed. It's the best job I ever had. Thank you. We paid our people well. We look at our peer group every other year to make sure our group was paid well. Ultimately, we had a nice profit sharing with some of the senior executives. We ultimately, they all became multimillionaires. It was a phenomenal story. But the culture piece, Chase, was ongoing, consistent, and pretty damn lovely, I'll tell you. And for me, an old school guy, to hear Brett say that, and Brett is so proud of that. Brett keeps a lot inside of him, but deep down inside, if you ask him the thing he's most proud of, is that culture they built at the back.
He's a Midwestern guy too.
He's from Nebraska. His family has roots in Nebraska. Yeah. And it's really evident, really evident. But anyway, I hope those points come home on culture. In this day and age, if you want to be better at anything, there's so much to read and understand and appreciate. There's a lot of good business books out there. I don't read them all, but I hear from other people about this, that, and the other thing, and it's impressive. Sometimes you can skim read a book and ideas click in your head, and you can promote that. But if you're going to have a culture thing, you got to get other people's buy-in. You got to collaborate with people. But it's a meaningful thing, and it doesn't take big companies. It doesn't take small. You can do it anywhere. But you want everybody on the same plane. You want to do it. I don't know if that helps, Jace. I don't know.
And if you think that Brett has done amazing things, he's not here to say it, but I bet you he would give you due credit for the foundation that you gave him. Because I would say the same for me. I mean, I was a junior at UC Davis. You were the first person that believed in me. As a founder, as a leader, and I didn't know what I was going to do back then. And I look back, and it's like everything goes back to everything I learned from SEA and everything I learned from Jim. And when I had this hobby idea of pair everything, no, sorry, everything, pair anything.
Don't look at me, right?
I moved out here not knowing anyone, but you were one of the first people that I called. And it was just a hobby idea, but I ran it past you. I remember you had a couple questions. You wanted me to do a financial model, all these things. So I did, SEA, 101. And I came prepared. We had coffee, right, in Davis. And that somebody that you admire telling you, I believe in you, I'm in, it's the greatest feeling in the world. And come January, he texted me, I'm coming over. And he gave me a check, my first investor. So that, money aside, it's just the belief of someone, of your potential. And you've been that constant support. And you've done that for many of us. I mean, you're a driving force for many entrepreneurial journeys.
You're right about that, the belief. I've written first checks on a number of deals I have. And I think I've done about 15 SEA deals now. 4 of them have been, wow.
Let's name the 4.
Well,
Where are the big home runs?
well, Buzz Stryker's deal was 100 times all my money.
Well, POS portal, 100 times.
Bay Equities, I never calculated because I had some founder shares in there, so I don't have an exact number, but it's in the 60 and 70. Dustin Devan, 24 times.
Yeah.
And a deal that I didn't expect to go, because the pandemic changed the whole business model. It was a tent leasing company for major events, and that world changed radically. And your fellow alum, Ben Anderson, literally pivoted and changed the whole business model to be temporary facilities for large general contractors to store various items. I visited one of the places where he had 2 monster tents up in Normal, Illinois. There's such a place, Normal, Illinois. And this was the 9th largest under roof automobile manufacturer. Sometimes you go through the academy and say, geez, I don't know if I'm tough enough to do this. But we've seen a number of academy people, and I'll name 2 of them, Tran and Jeremiah Armstrong. Both went to work for Buzz Stryker at POS Portal. They were so good they got options. And guess what? They went and started their own businesses. Jeremiah is one of the leading IT, he's a patent defense lawyer, so he's working with big corporations. Interesting guy. I've got him involved in a couple deals, and he's excellent. He's just excellent. Thoughtful, comprehensive, and fun. Really an excellent. And Ann is a superstar. I mean, I don't know her numbers. I've begged her, can I get a piece of this deal? You know? But she's a superstar, and she's in there with another Academy alum. It's their second business. They did a side gig, and they all lived in a house in Davis, and the 3-car garage was their warehouse.
But here's an example of paying it forward, right? I mean, I think this is what makes SEA alums, right? Why we stand apart from all the other entrepreneurs in this town is that it's this concept that we learned from Jim of paying it forward. And Tron has been a sponsor of the showcase as far as I remember when I was running this program. And anytime that you ask an SEA alum, and I know, hopefully I practice this, is anytime you ask somebody for any help or any question, the answer is always yes. So I guess maybe that's one of the questions, like, Jim, you know several of us, several years, and you've been there for us. Like, how do you manage it? Like, I mean, I know your upbringing taught you how to multitask, run a couple jobs, but you know, you've supported several of us. How do you find time for us?
I just have fun doing it. Have fun being around people that I respect. I remember in the early years we'd go to UC Davis and Sac State, and then we would recruit the class. And one of the lines I use, and I don't know how this was received, but I'm just a Jersey boy trying to get along. I would say to the people assembled that came and wanted to understand what the academy was about, I would say, stop and think for a minute. There are people on your left and right in your classes that you hope at the end of the class year you never see them again. But when you go to an SEA gathering, look at the way you guys were socializing amongst yourselves here tonight. A lot of you guys are friends. Maybe you don't see each other all the time, but you're friends. You're like-minded. You know, we look at things differently. We understand what an income statement is and what a balance sheet is. You know, we understand that it comes a time in a business career you stop staring at the income statement and start looking at the balance sheet and understand, you know, how your assets and liabilities can relate to your growth pattern. You know, we just look at things differently. We understand we have to have advisors around us. We have to have a good lawyer and a good accountant. I spoke to my accountant today. He's retired now. He's dying of cancer as we speak. He's had 3 horrible years. Told me today, no more chemo, no more drugs. But he was my accountant for 41 years. And there was never a doubt in my mind that he was there for me. He was there for me. He helped me through a lot of different things. He helped to structure some things that were unique and different. My lawyer, he's in Scottsdale. I see him. I'm going to see him in another week and a half. We're going to see him. He's got lymphoma. It comes and goes. Back playing golf again. But there was never any doubt that these guys were on my team. They did all these agreements. And when we had to bring an expert in, it was an expert handpicked by them. the best in Sacramento. We always work with the best people. And I say to you, it's important to have good advisors. You pay them everything they ask for, and you listen to them. Big deal. I've been in highly regulated businesses. You got to have good compliance people. You got to have experts in that area. Bay Equity, we had audits all the time, as you can imagine. 42 states, we had audits all the time. And we had the same team work with this group. And I've been through enough audits pre-Bay Equity with our FHA housing and apartment deals that I knew that if the government said you were satisfactory, it's good. Well, I'll never forget this as long as I live. I was in Brett's office down in Corte Madera. He's on the phone with one of the Fannie Mae senior auditors. And this woman said to Brett, "Your team is outstanding."
That's great.
So when I break it off the phone, I said, "Who'd you pay to say?"
Yeah.
They never say. But we had the same group in that room with the regulators all the time. They understood the differences in states, how they handled this problem and that problem. And we got through it. And as our COO, Sue we trust? Sue told her staff, we only get A's. We only get A's. And that was the standard. But you got to deal with a lot of third parties, and you got to have an attitude to deal with it. And I remember I was on the board of Sacramento Commercial Bank, and I was allowed to sit in to the exit interviews with this bank, state of California bank regulators, and the comptroller of the currency. And one of my fellow board members wanted to argue with these people. You don't argue with these people. They audit a number of your peer banks. They understand the issues with your peers. So when they say something, they know what they're talking about. So you listen respectfully, you say thank you very much, and you make the changes that they request and require. So if you're ever in those type of things, remember that. Don't get your ego up, just listen carefully, you know.
I remember Nikki mentioned that at the showcase, one thing I learned from my dad, no, I learned many things from my dad, but one of them is that, like, God gave you 2 ears, right? You should listen. Yeah. Jim, I think we're going to be winding down, but I want to kind of tie in, like, we talked about how the SEA fellows are unique. I think the fact that your service to our country, I think, is a big part of how you provide service to all of us. You brought in this letter, and I was very moved by it. I wanted to see if we could share this letter, because I think instead of like wrapping up and all the highlights that we talked about, this is a great example of some of what makes us unique, and it's a great example of the impact that an SEA alum can do. Would you like to read?
Yeah, maybe just a little background. Yeah. I mean, I've mentioned Brett a number of times. I can mention 80, 90 alums that I feel special in. Let me tell you a story about Chase. Chase and I had a lot of great conversations, and I'm proud of you, brother. I'm telling you.
He looks the same, except for a little beard.
One day I made a mistake of telling Chase I'm having a little trouble with a billboard I own. Yeah. And I gave him a couple different facts, and he immediately jumped in and said, "Here's how I negotiate that." Blah, blah, blah.
Did it help?
When you have your hands tied behind your back, you're in trouble. Anyway, I mentioned Brett. Brett is a big proponent of the military. He's given money to the Navy SEALs. He has 3 Navy SEALs as his tenant down in Coronado now. Through one of his children's kindergarten teachers, he met a relative of a kindergarten teacher, and this was somebody who served in Iraq as a medic. And Brett was so moved in talking to him, he wanted to come out with his family to California. And Brett said, "You can use my house in Sonoma County and use it as long as you like." So this guy brought his family out, stayed 7, 8, 9 days at Brett's beautiful home in Sonoma County. And he ultimately sent Brett a thank you note. And I think Brett's attitude is indicative of a lot of people in this room when they understand that we have a pretty special life and we should give back to our friends, family, and community. And this was Brett's way of doing it. He wanted to thank Brett. He said, "This is the only thing I can think of to give you. This old, worn, faded flag, at first glance, may not seem like much. But to me, it's one of my most cherished possessions. This flag carries many memories, both fond and painful. During my deployment in Iraq in 2003 and 2004, I was a medic with the 307th Combat Engineering Battalion, part of the 82nd Airborne Division. This very flag I carried folded in my body armor on every mission. It was over my heart in the heat of every battle, through dust and chaos. Times of laughter and through tears. I took it out occasionally to clean it, to stare at it, dreaming of home. Flag kept me warm on cold nights. I cried tears into it, I sweated on it. Heartbreaking, it is born the blood of some of my America's finest, men and women who gave everything for our freedom. He was with me crossing bridges on foot in different places in Iraq. I fought house to house in Fallujah. And as I rode through the streets of Baghdad, through every firefight, every mission, every day, the flag remained steadfast. In many ways, it became a good luck charm. So much that some of my fellow soldiers would insist on touching it before they would head out on patrols. I placed this flag in my body armor on 10 February 03 and removed it on 8 February 04. Now I entrust this faded old flag to you. I know you will keep this safe and honor its journey. Thank you, Brett. Thank you for everything." See, I happen to think that Brett's attitude is indicative of each and every one of you in this room. That we've built a community of special people. People that see things differently. People that want to be part of their communities, grow their communities, provide jobs for our friends and family and our employees. And I think the Academy is more special than ever to me. And I am forever grateful to be in your midst. You are special to me, each and every one of you. And I thank you for that. It means everything for me to be here and to be part of you all and the Academy. Thank you.
This is the hard part, is when you try to close it out. I just want to thank you, Jim, for your immense wisdom and the impact, not just what you said tonight and shared with us, but throughout your life's journey. You've been a remarkable force in me and several of us. I mean, let's raise a hand who's been impacted by Jim. I would say practically everyone here, and those that can't be here. And to everyone here, thank you for joining us. This is the most meaningful community I belong in, and I'm glad that we're still able to, to give back. There's several alums here, and we're able to continue it forward. If you want to get more involved, I know Maurice and several of us are still always recruiting for some committees. But anyways, may this be a reminder that entrepreneurship is about heart and also about the hustle. And you could see from Jim's, early beginnings, he hustled. I mean, having several jobs, humble beginnings, coming from a large family, in a household where, trying to make ends meet was always, that daily reality. And I think we can all relate to that you don't have to be the A student, the rock star, but any one of us can be great. It's having, the right people surrounding us and hiring the best, being around people that are, A players, but having that integrity. I mean, this is a man of immense integrity, and the fact that he's able to pass that on and set an exemplary, to be an example for all of us. I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of replicate ourselves on the footsteps of Jim. So thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda.
Christian, let me turn it over to our president.
Thank you, Jim. We've known each other for some time. We want to thank you personally for helping me rekindle the ACA this year. Your energy was rising up. Sometimes I'm getting texting several times a day and good conversation. So thank you again for helping us. And we're going to continue on this
Thank you.
rebound.
Thank you.
I want to thank Boris specifically here because he's the chair of Committee B. Maurice, so just a quick sidebar because we want you to be aware and you be more engaged. I recognize the board members here and some of the supporters. He's Committee B. Committee B is the alumni network. To us, it's the core. How do we engage those events? Because without those events, we don't have a product to sell. Sorry, I'm talking sales now. And, fundraising as well. So this is essential. What you're doing with your committee. Who else is in your committee here today? All right, you better motivate them better. I know Lori has been injured, so she couldn't make it. She's been injured. So, and Steve, you're on what? Yeah,
Marketing.
Marketing. Okay. So we have a few board members. So Anthony, thank you so much as Fireside Bank, great supporter, hosting us. Anthony is part of Committee C, was chaired by Courtney. Committee C is fundraising, potential grants, showcase. It's all the money. She likes the money. So.
She said you.
I'm good at it.
And Committee A, Al, he's not here because his wife has a health issue and he's sidestepping a little bit. So I'm going to take his leadership in the interim for Committee A, which is outreach and ecosystem. And so I want to, and that's what you're part of. And Chris, you're on this one, right? Board member as well. So everybody in this room should consider being an executive member. So this is a new category of non-board member but official people. I'm coming to that. And so Christy is an executive member of Committee C. So all of you could be engaged in the formal matter with the ACA without being a board member, without putting the same amount of time we all put in, without paying board dues. And so please consider reaching out either to Maurice for alumni, Courtney for obviously fundraising, or myself right now for outreach ecosystem. I want to make another announcement is that we officially have Chaseburg as a new board member as of today. So we're really proud, and we have more new board members coming on board. So we're riding that excitement wave and be ready for the next season. And hope to see all you at other mixers or other opportunities to network. But please stay engaged and put the word out. We're recruiting. We're doing first year ever. We're doing a discount before end of September. Used to be end of August. For fellows who can enroll before end of September, they get a discount. So we are enrolling right now. Please send people to us. Thank you all.
Many progress with the speaker yet for next year?
We are working on it.
Good, I expected that.
If you have some thoughts, let me know.
Yeah.
But thank you again, Jim.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, let's.
One more thing, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Maurice.
Excuse me.
Hey, Samantha, I forgot drinks if you remember.
Oh, and I do want to thank Christy for bringing the food and the
Got some
drinks.
wine. Wine sponsored by Pair Anything over there.
It paired nicely with the Filipino food.
It felt good.
She has the right ingredients. She has the right ingredients. But I wanted to thank everybody for making it. We really do appreciate your time. And we are gonna. I actually have someone that's gonna make the basically tell you about the next events that we have coming up. Please welcome Alaric Scott. He's the founder of Equihire AI, AIAJ Academy, and the creative mind behind the incredible video coverage of this year's SEA Alumni Pitch Competition. So if you haven't seen it, take a look at it. It's really nice. He's a compassionate innovator and storyteller, and Alaric is here to share details on the exciting upcoming events and initiatives that continue to spotlight and support SEA alumni.
All right. Thank you, Maurice. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Christy. I appreciate it. So here's some of our upcoming events. In September, we have Masterminds and Mimosas. Yeah, offered a relaxed yet impactful space for entrepreneurs to connect, share insights, and collaborate over drinks. November's the Hot Seat. Is that the game show, the Hot Seat?
Yeah, well, it's a hot seat where people kind of, well, it's kind of like a pitch competition, but not. So basically, we're going to be very pessimistic. It's
You're gonna get roasted.
It's going to be Christian.
Oh, no.
So, you know.
You gotta find the right judges there.
And, you know, we're going to be very pessimistic, but you have to have enough confidence in yourself to believe in your idea. And if you believe in your idea enough and can really convince us that it's a good enough idea, then you get the guy.
Nice. So as Maurice was saying, it's a challenge that will challenge individuals and teams to pitch their ideas and win over a panel in high energy American Idol style competition. Can you steal the gavel? On August 6th, Dr. Chris Leah's Operation Playbook webinar provides a practical toolbook for entrepreneurs to map, streamline, and improve their business processes, laying the groundwork for sustainable growth and smoother daily operations. On September 10th, join us for the launch of AI for Founders, a powerful new series designed to help entrepreneurs harness AI tools to streamline operations, gain strategic insight, and work smarter. So whether you're building, scaling, or just curious about AI's real-world applications, this webinar will give you a practical edge. I'll be presenting. So don't miss the chance to learn, engage, and explore how AI can elevate your entrepreneurial journey. For more information regarding registration, be sure to register for the SEA newsletter, follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram. You can also let Maurice know. If you already subscribed, please make sure your contact details are up to date. I think we received an email to update our contact info. For questions or updates, reach out to Michael at sealink.org. Thank you.
Alaric, please confirm that you're an exec member.
I'm an exec member.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you for your service. You're doing it already.
Thank you.
Is that pitch going to be, that pitch night, is that going to be next spring again? Is that being planned?
November. Oh, you're talking about the pitch competition, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we definitely plan on doing
It's not
that.
scheduled yet.
Sure.
It's not.
We definitely plan.
One of the, Farouk told me that, but for that, he would not have
Yes.
decided to go forward with his.
Wow.
He was just going to create his AI for his own practice. And he said after that, he decided he's going to try to explode it.
Awesome.
It's a great catalyst.
Yeah,
It's a great catalyst for this
Yeah.
idea.
It was very interesting, yeah.
But again, pass the word because we're trying to rekindle the network really big. So people I don't even know, we may have never met before. Please talk to other people you know in the academy. So we need to be connected. And Jim has been a great liaison, but we want to give him a break a bit so he doesn't have to be the liaison.
There's just a lot of good people that will happily help, you know, and I mean, you mentioned you're an alum and it's good. You're good. You're good. You're pre-qualified. You know, it's a big deal. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for everything, guys.
Thank you. And then one more thing before you go, and you have 20 minutes. So you have 20 minutes to talk if you want, or whatever you decide to do.
Since I spent most of the time with us.
But hopefully, I just want to encourage everybody to get involved, maybe perhaps volunteer. And if you have friends, bring them to future events. That'll be a huge help so we can bring together the community again. We want to make sure that it's revitalized and make sure that everybody kind of gets to know each other. Because kind of like what Jim was discussing earlier, we're amongst like-minded people. And sometimes it can be a world where people kind of feel like everybody doesn't understand you as much, but this is an entrepreneurial environment, ecosystem, community, and you can bring more people like you. And then also make sure that you're able to update your contact information. There was an email sent earlier. That would be a huge help. And then you can also encourage others as well. And then make sure you pay it forward as well. If you see people like you, make sure that you refer them to SEA, so you can basically you can replicate yourself. So it will be a huge help if you find anybody that you see has that entrepreneurial spirit, and we all see it, we all know it. Just have them get in contact with Michael. That's it.
Each of us in this room bring one candidate, we would exceed last year's goal.
All right, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Let's do it. All right.
Thank you, everybody. Hopefully you have fun.
Never been late till then.
Yes, please.
I must.
Good job, Jabari.